Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is Listening Beyond the Soundbites. Tonight joining me is Eric Lamontagne, who is my co-host tonight, a guest host, I should say. Ben's not here tonight. And Eric is also the executive director for Campaign for Vermont. And we are continuing with our candidate series. I have Ken Alger here, who is a Republican running for Senate in Washington County. Ken? And just to remind you, we're trying to get all the candidates to come on the show, whether you be, we used to call it in the legislature DRIP, D-R-I-P, Democrat, Republican, Independent, or Progressive.
I've somehow never heard that.
Yes, we had a radio show. We called it WDRIP. But anyway, you're all invited to come on the show, and if you're running on a state level or national level, you'll get an hour on the show, and we would welcome your calling us and asking to be on. You can also email me at voteforvermont@gmail.com. Okay, enough gabbing. So, Ken, we always ask folks to tell them a little bit about themselves in the beginning of the show, so if you can tell us.
Sure. Well, I'm 50 years old. I'm a seventh generation Vermonter.
Good for you.
Lived in Vermont my whole life. Raised my family here. Got married about 28 years ago. Have a daughter that graduated from Norwich University. And we're hoping to be able to stay in the state of Vermont.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who have left.
Yes.
Mostly out to Kentucky and that area, and Tennessee. Oh, what did I say, Kentucky? Tennessee. They're all in Tennessee.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the taxes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure too. They didn't leave quietly.
No. And that's why I'm running.
That's great. So what do you do at your job?
I've been a flooring installer for probably the past 30 years.
Wow.
Before that, used to work on my grandfather's dairy farm.
Right.
And so I got some keen interest in the agriculture in the state of Vermont, and working in the trades and the construction industry. We get to travel around Vermont, see what's going on, and how the laws are affecting my type of work and just business in general. Because we see how business is being slowed down by some of the Act 250 and laws that we pass here.
Right.
And it's just keeping business out. A lot of our commercial business is funded through federal money. We do a lot of hospitals and colleges and things like that.
Yeah, it is. Regulation is, years we were talking about Irene a little show or two ago, and I thought after that, when everybody pitched in and built the roads and they're still standing and they haven't had to be repaired, that we would see a major change in regulations, because it got done really quickly, but they didn't budge.
Yep.
Not one regulation got changed. I thought for sure that next year in the legislature they'd whack them all.
All that red tape is pushed right through, and it's, like you said, people came together and it really got all these things done.
Yeah, and well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see what's happening at the federal level with, whether you like Donald Trump or not, his deregulation has brought a lot of the economy back.
Stock market likes it.
Oh yeah, and business in general does.
Yep.
Steel's up, aluminum's up. There's a lot of jobs out there.
Right.
And if Vermont would take a cue from that, I think we could actually get some business here in Vermont.
Yeah.
And it would help everyone in my industry, I know that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you mentioned the trades. Eric's, we've been working on this thing through Campaign for Vermont. Maybe you could talk just quickly about what we're doing on tech ed.
Yeah, so workforce development being a key component to trying to make sure that we're setting up Vermont for that prosperous future that we all want, no matter who you are and what your role is, that we all want. So workforce development and technical education being a very key component towards setting up a workforce in Vermont that has the skills and the foundation necessary to work some of those jobs and work in some of those industries that are very, very high demand right now.
And they don't go away either.
no, we always need plumbers.
Yes,
we
we
need
do.
electricians.
And they make big bucks.
Yes, they do. And you don't see as many young people in the trades right now, and it would be, I think, a real bonus to have more education in the trades.
Yeah.
I took trades in school. I was
Exactly.
planning on being a
Oh,
farmer.
did you go to Spalding? Is that
I
where you
graduated from Spalding
Yeah.
in 1985.
Because they've got a very good tech ed center there.
Yep, and we traded around different schools. I actually went to U32 for agriculture.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I thought I
Oh,
was going
can
to be
you
a
go?
dairy
Can
farmer.
you switch like that? I
It
didn't know
was
that.
part of the programs that we had back then. That U32, I believe, had nursing, agriculture, and Barry had building trades, automotives, and
Well, that
depending
makes
on
a
what-
lot of sense because
yeah.
they can't have everything.
right. And so we were
Efficient.
bused to U32, and students
Cool.
from there were bused to Barry that were taking the
Oh, I
trade.
love that. Well, I don't want to give away your age unless you want to share, but how long ago was that?
That was in the 80s.
Are they doing it anymore?
I don't believe so. Well,
Because even to find the technical people to teach the courses, I mean, we have 14 tech centers, and if you find 14 experts to teach ag,
Yeah.
this way it's much better.
I believe in '86
Oh,
they did away with agriculture class at U32.
I heard did you tell me that VTC is cutting back on ag? Somebody told me that, and I was surprised.
That wasn't me. I know one of the things VTC does is look at what other programs are
Right.
available, so
Right.
that the limited resources that they have, they're not trying to stretch those
Right.
through offering redundant programming.
Oh, well, maybe.
So it could be. I don't want to speak out of turn. It could
Yeah.
be that they're reducing ag because there's somebody else that's offering it
Oh, okay.
with
Yeah,
with
maybe.
an equal quality, so that they can free resources to put that into
Yeah, because
something
that
that's
sharing
underserved.
idea was, well, that's the whole thing about merging is of a sharing resources.
Right.
Yeah. Good. So what are you hearing when you're out there knocking on doors? And have you been knocking on doors in this? I didn't actually knock on doors. Maybe that's why I lost. But they said in Senate, you don't necessarily need to do that.
Well, I have been knocking on a few doors,
Good.
but I do it after work, and I usually don't get to too many houses because I listen to a lot what the people have to say,
Right.
and a lot of it's taxes in the state, and I hear about welfare reform and just getting business in the state, and there's so many subjects, but it's basically the cost of living in the state of Vermont and a lot of people seem to see their money getting thrown down the tubes.
Right.
And
Well, I haven't heard welfare so much. That's interesting. The cost of welfare that people are.
well, I live in Barrie,
Yeah.
and I talk to people in Barrie City, and it's not probably so much the welfare as the. I don't know if you ever noticed that they seem to bundle all the people that are in trouble into
the
Barrie
social
City.
services. Yeah.
And you have a ton of social services, which they don't seem to spread it around through the state. I'm not sure, but we see a lot more of it in Barrie.
Yeah, that's always been a big issue in Barrie, and they say because of the court system there, but also because you have affordable apartments there, whereas some of like Berlin doesn't have any place for these people to live, and other areas around. So there is of course, corrections say those people that they release into Barrie live in Barrie, but that's a discussion for Mr. Lozon and others that used to have.
Yeah, and well, the reason they talk about welfare reform because they see a lot of abuse of the system. There are people that really need that,
Right.
help, and there's a lot of people that are abusing that part of the system, and taking that money, and that's why they're pretty concerned about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the welfare system's a big topic, especially once you start going into what are we? Is the system working to move people off of it?
Right.
And to
Yeah.
a large extent, we have this issue of benefits cliffs,
Right.
where for the want of $100 difference in income, somebody can lose all of their benefits completely. So it almost seems like we have a system that is designed. There's no gradient to this. It's a system that's really an all. You're either in it or you're
Yep.
out of it.
Yeah,
And
it's
if you're out
designed
of
to
it,
keep you on it.
right.
It's
Right.
supposed to be a hand up, not a handout.
Yeah.
They keep forgetting that.
And there's less programs to get people off the welfare.
Right.
And
Well,
like you
there's no
said,
jobs either, right? That's
Yeah,
back
and
to
the-
that circle.
and the housing that we're building is designed to warehouse people. It's not designed to move them up. Also,
That's interesting. What does that? Why did you say that? What?
well, when we spend money on housing for low-income
Oh, the housing projects of sorts.
yeah, it seems to me it's a warehouse
Oh, I see.
for low-income people. They can't get
They-
out of that.
They can't. That's true.
You're paying your money in, and there are low-cost housing alternatives
Yep.
that Vermont really pushes against. I mean, you can't. It's really hard to put a single wide trailer on a piece of property in this state. It's very hard to put a tiny home on this state, and I think we could use some of that funding to actually
Interesting.
help people to get out
What's
of that system.
the low income place up in Barry? It's all
there's
white.
Highgate,
Highgate.
there's-
When I was in the legislature, I spent a lot of time in Highgate. They had community dinners and stuff, and you bring a potluck and stuff. And most of those people are really nice, hardworking, and you're right. They just live there. Thank goodness they have it, but they want to move on, and it's like they get sucked in, and
Right.
it's hard to get out. And
Yeah.
they're really, really nice people.
Well,
Yeah.
And they just want the best for their kids and themselves. I mean, how hard
It's
is
the
that?
idea of moving towards a system of solid charity versus solidarity,
Yeah.
where you, after disaster, people come in and they flood them with donations,
right.
and then it gets out of the mainstream media, and then it leaves. And it's sort of the
Right.
same way with these other systems, social systems we have, of where we have, like you said, hand up instead of
Yeah, right.
hand out, where
Yeah.
we're giving these resources
Just to
without
help
ever
them get up.
actually doing something to teach the skills and
Right.
teach what's necessary to build a life of your own.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what people need. They need to feel self-reliant and need some pride in what they're doing and
Yeah, they need ownership of property and
That's right.
and
Be
something
part of
to
the
call their
American
own.
dream, right?
Yeah.
So moving a bit beyond welfare, if you had to, what is your primary platform?
As getting Vermonters back to work, giving them the opportunities to get back to work, and just making it affordable for people to stay here in the state instead of driving them out. Restoring people's constitutional rights is a big thing that I'm really looking forward to do. And
Can you expand on that a
I
little
think
bit?
that's
well,
reference to the guns, right? Is that
Yes.
what you're talking about?
the S-55 and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I started getting into this. I was down at the legislative sessions when they were trying to pass these
Right.
bills and trying to push it through.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not a super expert on firearms, but I'm a NRA lifetime member. I'm a certified pistol and rifle instructor,
All right.
and I do competitive shooting. And these laws they passed are really hurting our clubs, and they're not doing the intended job they were
You can
supposed
see
to do.
the difference in attendance in the clubs.
Well, right now they actually are eliminating some of our sport by this magazine ban.
Oh, right.
You can't bring in people from other states to compete. Yeah, my magazines are grandfathered in, so I can
Oh.
compete. But if I drop one on the ground and step on it, I can't
You
replace
can't
it.
replace it.
And it's things like that. And being a ban on something like that, that's not going against your Second Amendment. That's going against your Fourth and Fifth Amendment. They're taking your property away from you and making it valueless and not giving you any compensation
Interesting. I
for
hadn't
it.
looked at it like that. Interesting.
Yeah, and even with these bump stocks, now I think they're a gimmick myself and not really worth the money. But if somebody bought and paid for that, and you've banned it, and you don't give them any money for it,
Right.
yeah, I
right.
mean, you've basically made that valueless. It's illegal to even possess it now, and basically that person's out. And it should, they could regulate it or do something different. I mean, literally, you could purchase a fully automatic weapon if you wanted to, with
Right,
the right amount of
right.
paperwork and the right amount of money.
Right.
You could do it. But the state of Vermont believes I can't own a 30-round magazine that comes standard
What
with any
bothers
AR-15.
me is this state is the or one of the most safest states in
Exactly.
in the nation. I mean, it's not like Chicago here, where they need some, and they've got the toughest regulations of
And-
most any place, and it's not working there.
That's why it's not working there, because law-abiding citizens are penalized for having firearms, so they can't protect themselves. And we're in a state where you actually can have a firearm and protect yourself. And just these laws were made, well, it's basically they took the New York Safe Act, threw it at this S-55, and then tried to pass
Yeah,
it.
I think there's going to be more coming next year, don't you think?
I believe so. And I'm sure they're emboldened by passing this legislation to bring some more in.
I just took teaching women how to shoot course last week.
Oh no, like
Yes,
yeah.
it was great. It was all women, and it was. I don't know why. I just felt more relaxed. No offense to you guys,
No,
but I felt more relaxed there because there were women, and I figured, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And as opposed to, well, if you can shoot, maybe I can. I brought home I should bring it. I brought home my
They
Target.
give you a
Target.
big
yeah,
certificate.
Target. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
I know. I have a certificate. It's on the good old refrigerator door. So there you go.
Yeah, Women on Target's a great program.
Yeah, it's
that
great.
They have a lot of events all over the state.
Yeah.
And it,
I was down
Like
in
you said.
Randolph
Yeah.
Fish and Wildlife.
yeah,
Yeah,
Randolph
fishing game, sorry.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good the good follow-up question to that would be is what's your thoughts on the role of emotions in politics versus the role of data in
Right.
politics?
Well, it's data and it's constitutionality too. I mean, you can't just, I'm sure you can't just look at the data and you can't just go by your emotions. You got to go back to what it says in the Constitution, what you took for an oath to when you make these laws, and then you can look at your emotions. But that's just your one little part of it. You got to look at the data, and like you were saying, this is the safest state.
Yeah, it is.
One of the safest states in the country, and obviously we don't need all these new gun laws because they're only regulating the law-abiding citizen.
That's right.
And I mean, the law itself was flawed by when they said that 30-round magazine was a high-capacity magazine.
Yep.
They come standard with every firearm, every AR-15 they sell. So it's a standard magazine. So they basically conflated the issue to.
Well, you guys really came out in numbers.
Yeah.
I was impressed with that.
We were really. I mean, anybody that's, like I said, in the shooting sports
Yeah.
was really offended by it, and the main thing that we were trying to push is that it wasn't. This was supposed to be a safety thing for schools, and
Right.
nothing.
Well, I
nothing
said
came of
to
it.
somebody, if you started out talking about safety for schools, you might have gotten a bill that dealt with safety for schools.
Right.
But if you start out with guns,
Yes.
that's what you're going to get is a gun. And here, say something worked.
Right.
The system, as it's supposed to work, worked. But anyway, I just hope they just stop where they are and let it go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about taxes here and economy for a moment. Was it death and taxes the only
Death
two
is-
the
exactly.
only thing
Exactly.
certain in this world? How do we balance both the affordability factor with Vermont's small tax base with the programs that, like the fundamental programs that we have to fund?
Right.
What's the balance there to make that work?
Well, I think there's a lot of redundancy in government. I think we could be a lot more fiscally responsible. We probably have a very generous budget that we could actually fund many of the things that we have, but there's, like I said, there's plenty of places we could cut. I know during the Shumlin administration we added a lot of deputy commissioners, and I don't know, and they're making all over $100,000 a year.
Yeah. That goes
And
back. Those positions come and go depending on who the governor is.
Right.
The
Well, we
deputies-
don't
sometimes
seem to.
they're wiped out and then they're brought back. So
We don't seem to have eliminated any of
no,
them.
we never eliminate. We
And
just postpone.
it just seems to me that there should be some type of regulation on how many deputy commissioners and how many people they're actually overseeing. I mean, I'm sure that there's some that probably only have 3 people they're looking at. So
Well, some of the departments are small. I'm in the Department of Personnel. I was commissioner and I had a deputy, and I don't know, there was I don't remember the number, but it was not very many in personnel. The trouble is, how often is the commissioner or secretary up in the legislature? If it's a high demand job for that person to be up in the legislature all the time, you really do need, doesn't have to be deputy necessarily, but you need somebody back there running the show while you're up in the legislature, and that's where it gets kind of tricky. But
Right.
it doesn't have to be a deputy either.
yeah, and so there's all these appointed positions that we could probably look at, shave some money down, and just cost sharing through different entities. I think the budget thing where you got to spend it or you lose it
Well, isn't that
is really
scary?
killing us.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people are scrambling to find something to spend
Yes, we
money
do.
on,
We do. At the
And-
end,
and then blowing it. So
Yeah,
I think
'cause
we could save a lot of money right
Yeah.
there.
when you're rushing to spend money, you're not balancing.
no, you're not making good decisions.
if you
Yeah.
actually need to spend that money.
Well, because and I don't know if it's different now, so I'm talking from when I was in there, whatever your end balance is what they use to increase. So if their end balance is lower, they're taking the increase for the next year on a lower number, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So we want all that we can get. That,
So yeah, that I don't know if I know in some companies they have efficiency experts. I don't know if
Yeah.
that would be viable
Yeah.
in the state of Vermont.
there's actually is one there, but it's sort of a one person shop, and they're doing a lot of work, but it's one person.
Right.
So it's not a fully supported position. But even with Phil, excuse me, apologize for that. That was rude. The governor recommended that the lottery and liquor control be merged, and
Yeah.
now they're doing it. But their first reaction was no, because it's changed, and that would save
substantial
money.
amounts of money.
It's a good
And-
idea, actually.
Well, I know the governor has saved some pretty good money
he
over,
has.
and I definitely support him on things like that. If we could
Yeah,
save even more.
that's good.
I was hoping that he would have got some more support about not raising any more taxes on the business people and at
Well, do you know what I didn't realize businesses are under second properties. Did you know
Yeah.
that? I didn't know that. That businesses fall. You know when they always talk about second homeowners, that's
Yeah.
that's businesses.
yeah, and I like how these legislators just push it off on they're out of staters, so we can just bump
Right.
them off. Well, they still own property here in Vermont.
For sure, but most businesses in Vermont, their profit margin is like little bitty, and I
Yes.
think our legislatures has visions of grandeur where they're making
Yeah.
major dollars, and they're not. They're not.
Exactly, and well, it's tough for them those businesses that are already established here,
Right.
and that's why we're not getting any new ones.
Yeah, well, we got to keep the ones we have too, and we're
Right.
doing a good job on that.
Yeah, and then the workforce development conversation comes into play again when we're trying to attract more businesses. You're not going to get businesses here if, in addition to knowing that it's going to be expensive, they're not
Right.
going to have the people to fill the jobs that
Well,
they
and
can
you never
potentially
know.
create.
Whenever we've talked to businesses, they say to us on the show, all we want is predictability. Stop fooling around. Don't, leave it where it is. Even if it's high, at least you know to plan for that number. But every year, they creep it up, and the businesses are sick of it because they want to know how to plan for. I mean, they're in it to make a profit, for heaven's sake.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get serious. And they're the ones putting up the capital. They're the ones taking the risk.
Yeah.
So what would you like to see about? We didn't talk about education at all. That's a
Well,
That's a
yeah,
dandy.
that is. I'd like to see a repeal of Act 46.
would you?
Yes,
Interesting.
I think it's killing off our small towns. I mean, just in near our area, I know that I think it's Roxbury
Right.
got tied in with Montpelier.
Does that make sense to
I
you?
mean, come on.
Roxbury and Montpelier.
That's
Really?
Yes, and you
Yeah.
want to talk about? Let's hop next door and see our sister school. That's a long ride from Montpelier to Roxbury.
yeah, in the wintertime.
Yeah, try doing that over the mountains.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to wonder if what time of the morning do kids that need to be go from Roxbury to Montpelier, what time do they have to get up to
Very
be?
early.
Legally, they're only supposed to be on that bus for an hour.
Oh,
but I don't see it happening.
No.
I did want to touch on one thing. Was,
Sure, please.
what the state's doing with these solar farms and
Oh.
ruining our environment. I think tourism's a big part of our state, and we need that income from that. And we're destroying our green space with these solar panels.
Yeah.
And we could be putting them on top of buildings. We could be putting them over paved parking lots,
Right.
giving incentives to businesses to put them over their parking lots, stores, whatnot.
Yeah.
The state has parking rides all over the interstate. They could be putting them on top of those over paved areas instead of our green
Oh,
spaces.
is it? Like to build them up and put them over so you don't lose the parking space.
Right.
Huh. Interesting. Good
It just-
idea.
There's so many things that we could do without ruining our environment, trying to cut off our nose in spite of our face, you know.
I take windmills must fall into that category
do.
since we blow up the top of mountains.
And yeah, creating erosion, and
Right.
we're ruining that part of the environment. We're washing down into our streams with that, and the cost of those things
Right.
versus what they're actually producing
Right.
is not up to par with what we should be doing. And I just think we could do a lot of things different
That's
that would.
great. That's great. So what's
and-
been the reaction out there? You said been out there to all the fairs or whatever else.
Everybody's been pretty positive
Good.
for the most part. We can usually find some common ground on every
Yeah,
subject,
you can.
and so it's been great meeting everybody
Good.
in the whole county.
Good for you.
So
It's tough. It's tough to. I found the key is meeting people face to face.
yeah,
Because once they get to know you and hear, you're very articulate on all these issues, so you've done your homework. They need to know that you know what you're talking about and have some passion about some things. And you can't do that when you're sitting on a table with 17 other candidates and doing that. Well, what do you think about this?
yeah,
Yes,
you
no,
gotta
yes, no,
stay
yes,
pretty
no.
general.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in Montpelier there were 17 of us. I was like, I don't even want to be here. This is like, how are they ever going to get to know you? And you need to meet people, shake their hands, and look them in the eye.
Yep.
So have you been to any big events where you've been able to talk? And
The Berry Heritage Festival was a
that was
big
great.
one. It
That's
was,
right.
And yeah, and being from Berry, it was really fun for me.
they know you there. They
A
know
lot
you.
of them do, yeah. And
Yeah.
Northfield, we went to the big farmers market they just had, and that was a good time.
Good.
A lot of people there, and we got there a little late because I work for a living, and
I know.
so-
I remember our conversation. Now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
You work all the time. That's
yeah, my boss is great.
right.
I've worked for him almost 30 years.
Oh well,
and
there you go. Give
I've
you a
never
little-
been laid
little
off yet,
slack.
so
It's also hard to know when to knock on doors because if you're doing it after work, they're home eating dinner.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
So that's why I'm either bothering somebody or we're
Yeah,
talking
no.
for a half an hour.
Yeah, we
so.
haven't had anybody come by our house, but I think people expect it. So Ken, I really wish you a lot of luck, and thank you for
you.
being so gracious tonight. Thank you, Eric, for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll
Happy to be
see
see
here.
you next
talking
week.
to
I
you.
hope you're enjoying these candidate series. It's a good way to get to know the candidate. And if you know anybody out there who wants to be on the show, you can email me at voteforvermont@gmail.com and we'll get them on. Thank you very much. And let's see, we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.